Hi, I'm Joe Theismann, world champion quarterback and entrepreneur, and I'm having the pleasure to spend some time today, right now, with Dr. Tim Benson, and you are a psychiatrist.
Yes, I am.
And I find it very interesting that you really talk about something that very few people deal with, and that is surviving success.
Yes.
We get so caught up in trying to be successful in every aspect of life, we forget what happens when we get there. Well, we've met our goal.
Exactly.
And how do you help people survive that?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about my background. So,
Great.
I am as a psychiatrist, and I've been trained in the Harvard system. I've been on faculty, the clinical faculty, for over 10 years. And as a result, I've been working with high achievers in the areas of sports, entertainment, and business. So my focus has been the psychology of sustainable success.
Okay.
And as a result, I work with people in regards to two ways. So the work entails, number one, helping them up their game. Mm-hmm. And basically that means that realizing that once you arrive at success, what happens is that you cannot just stay there doing the same things that you've done. Right. You've got to acquire new skills, new strategies in order to take it to the next level. So as a result, based upon that, I help people to learn how they have to be, how they have to behave, and what they need to believe in order to maximize their impact, influence, and income.
Is the belief system one of the most important elements of that?
Always, always. You have to believe. One of the things that is important, especially when you talk about surviving success, is that you have to understand that what got you there won't necessarily keep you there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to believe that you don't have all the answers. And that's one of the things hard for successful high achievers to do, is to say, look, I don't have all the answers and I actually need help. And it's a hard thing to do, is to ask for help.
Well, I'm fascinated by our conversation here because I wear these rings. This is a Super Bowl ring, World Championship ring.
Yes.
This is an NFC Championship ring. This was success. Mm-hmm. This was the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. The following year, we went back, and I didn't know how to survive the success that I had. Mm-hmm. I wish I'd have spoken to you back in the 80s as opposed to sitting with you right now, because maybe it would have changed my mindset a little bit, and we wound up losing the second Super Bowl I played in. And I think so much of it is the fact that I just didn't know how to deal with surviving, how to deal with or survive the success that I was able to enjoy.
Right.
What is so critical for someone like myself or the people you deal with? What is the most critical element that you try and share with them?
Well, there are a variety of things, but one of the most critical things is you have to learn how to set limits, have to set boundaries, because you have so many people coming at you from all different angles. And sometimes it's hard to say no, especially if those people who have looked after you and looked for you for quite some time. So that setting boundaries and their ability to say no is key in helping them to survive success.
Why did you decide to do this?
Well, that's a great story. Actually, this mission is very personal for me because I used to be a former football player. Mm-hmm. I was a college scholar, All-American at Hampton University, and I won all these accolades. I got into medical school, and that was my dream. So what ended up happening was I wasn't prepared for all that came with achieving that dream. That's not, so I lost football, so there was an identity crisis there.
Right.
Now, I was smart, so I felt that, all I can do is outthink people or outwork people like I had done in the past. But the fact of the matter is that there were more elements that were integrated in determining what my success was going to be other than just my work ethic. Mm-hmm. So that was, I stumbled and my dream almost turned into a disaster before I reached out and asked for help. And once I did, I learned the strategies and skills that took me from my hood to Harvard.
Okay.
And these are the same strategies and skills that I teach my clients to help skyrocket their careers.
Who did you reach out to?
I reached out to people who were in positions like mentors. So I reached out to people who had the experience of understanding what I was going through. One of the things that's important to realize is that success can be very isolating. And sometimes, especially if you're like the first in your family to become a physician or go to college, it almost seems that you are making it up as you go along. So, there's, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? So these questions are all about, so you have to have someone that you talk to that can give you a frame of reference and help you partner for the perspective that it takes for you to succeed at this new level.
We've mentioned the word success a number of times.
Yes.
But yet, I think a lot of people struggle, and maybe you can help me with this, with defining success. How would you define success to someone if they're trying to achieve it? Yeah, we want to survive it, but you have to get there first.
Right.
But how do you define success?
Well, it's individually based. So again, for some, success could be financial success or relationship success or the amount of assets that you obtain. But in my experience, success is not a static thing, it's something that's dynamic. So success is the continual growing that you experience that helps challenge you to be a better you. So success is ongoing. It's not necessarily a destination. It is an ongoing journey. And that's a big piece of what I have to help frame for my clients. To say, look, this is not just because you've reached, let's say, the NFL.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it ends there. Really, this is the beginning, because it's not only about you maximizing your own opportunity, but creating opportunities for others. And that's ultimate success.
Do you find pushback when you deal with successful people? I know, because I became basically uncoachable. Hey, I'm successful. What are you going to tell me now? Oh, you're going to tell me about my life. Sure you are. You're not living my life. How do you deal with people like me, who I actually was more than I am today, I hope, anyway. But how do you deal with that?
Well, that's the biggest thing, because most of the time the people come to me when things are in a disaster. And that's, or either that, or they're in a major transition. Because when you're in a major transition point, you become more coachable, because you realize at some point you don't know everything. However, once you sign a multi-million-dollar contract, what happens is that people kind of shut down, and they say, exactly, well, who are you to tell me?
Right.
I've been validated by the money that I have acquired. So I get that all the time. So the key is that, are you able to open up just a little bit, enough to be able to realize that we don't know everything, and we can always use some help in terms of getting a perspective that will take us to the next level.
Do you find that trying to get to the individual can be difficult because of the support system that exists around the individual? And could that be one of the major hurdles and problems you deal with?
You hit it right on the head. One of the things that I really emphasize is how to empower the support system. Because again, you come see me, we have our sessions and we go through the program, but who's going to be the most influential in your life? The people who are around you constantly. Right. So again, to what degree are they educated? What degree are they empowered? Because again, success affects the whole system, right, not just the individual, because the successful person has to deal not only with their own expectations, but the expectations of all those around them. So, balancing that is a major obstacle. When
you talk about surviving success, then you're really not just talking about that individual. You're talking about that support unit around. Now, do you meet with, well, just take a family, for example. Yes. You're married. You're successful as an athlete. You've got your wife.
Yep.
You have expectations there.
Right.
You have your wife's family who have expectations. You have your family,
right,
if your mother and father are still with you. You have, there's more than just that one. That one individual actually becomes a very small part of the survival of the success that this particular person has achieved.
Exactly.
How willing are the people that see that person and have benefited from that person's success, how willing are they for you to allow you into their world, to maybe this person's going to say, well, I don't have to give that much away anymore? How much pushback you get with that?
Well, you can get a lot of pushback, because again, people have developed conditioned ways of behaving and believing and thinking about what it should look like. So it's almost as if you're disrupting patterns that have gone on for years. So, the key is that to have a point person to be able to say, look, we're going to have this training to help us all deal with all of this. Because again, it's not just the only individual, because The family members have to deal with, let's say, the comments from their friends and all this and all the pressures. And so that needs to have voice. That needs to be addressed. And I think, like I said, that's the most powerful work that needs to be done that is not being done.
There's an expectation of a way someone should act when they're successful.
Yes.
Is that myth or fact?
Well, that is a little bit of both.
I actually have a Harvard grad thinking, aha, oh, doctor, all right.
Well, there are.
I'm curious.
Well, think about it. There are requirements of the. Let's say you achieve a certain title or position. There are certain expectations of how you are to behave in this position, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a leader,
Right.
Right. So you want to act like a leader, or other people won't believe that you're worth following, right?
Right.
So in that case, yes. Now the challenge comes with those who feel like they have to change who they are.
Yeah.
And that's, so you don't necessarily have to change who you are to be able to fulfill the obligations of the role that you may be playing.
See, that's another thing that you hear from different people. Person goes back, they're successful, they go back to their hometown. First thing somebody says to the friends one of the friends says to him is that, you're different. Mm-hmm. But am I really different, or is your perception of me different because I have achieved a certain degree of success? That's hard to deal with, because then you almost say, well, I'm really not who I was, because I don't want to be, because I'm now up here. I've done this, I've moved forward, but you haven't left that world you're in.
Exactly.
They want to just sort of, hey, you're trying to survive this success, and I'm trying to bring you back to this world that you left that we can't get out of. Peer pressure?
Oh, very much so. One of the things I talk about is the dynamics between the culture of origin, meaning where you're from, and the culture of competition, that's where you are. So those are two different cultures in many cases. So you're right, people have to negotiate, well, what does it mean now that I have to be different, I have to act different. I've grown in ways that my culture of origin members may not have been forced to, right? Yeah. So again, does that make me better than them? No, not at all. It just makes me more cognizant of what I have to do in order to sustain the success that I've achieved. Because again, what you realize is that when anyone is stressed, we have a tendency to regress to the level that we felt most competent.
Right.
And this is some of the behaviors that you kind of see. You wonder why, well, this person has so much money, why are they acting this way? Well, sometimes if you felt most competent at this stage, you're gonna exhibit those behaviors at that stage. And it may not necessarily be conducive to the professional world, but that's a dynamic that people have to deal with. Yes.
Dr. Benson, thank you. Now, if people wanted to get in contact with you and they wanted to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing it?
Sure. You can go to drtimothybenson.com, or you can call my line at 888-332-9932.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Appreciate it.